Good morning, good morning, good morning. How you doing out there? We are so glad that you're with us today. Thank you so much for being part of our conversation. You are listening to Faith Over Fear. This is Faith Over Fear. I am Mable, your princess of poetry and praise. My real name, Dr. Mable Springfield Scott. My radio name, Mable, your princess of poetry and praise. We are so thankful you're with us today because it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Thank you for joining us on Faith Over Fear. We have quite a conversation for you today. It's a little different from what we normally talk about, and it's different because I really did not choose this topic. I had nothing to do with this. Well, what really happened is it just dropped into my spirit, and I'll tell you more about it in a few minutes. Those of you who know me will probably laugh a little when you hear what I'm going to talk about, but I want you to really concentrate and focus and think, is there something that she's saying today? Is that relevant to me? Is that something that I can relate to? Is she saying something that really I need to maybe think about too? So here it is. Here's what we're going to talk about today. Drum roll. Here it goes. Ta-da! The other night, I went to sleep, had a very restful sleep, really slept well. But when I woke up, I was singing, "If I hold my peace and let the Lord fight my battle, I know that the victory shall be mine. Victory shall be mine." That was what was in my spirit, on my heart, and what I was humming and singing as I was going to take a shower the other day. If I hold my peace and let the Lord fight my battle, I know that the victory shall be mine. Victory shall be mine. Many of you, like me, love to talk and converse and share and dialogue and interact. You're a people person. You really enjoy sitting down, talking to folks, having a good time, a great conversation, sharing, hearing, responding, laughing. But holding my peace is an infrequent virtue. I'm going to be honest. It's very difficult sometimes to hold your peace, especially if something is said that's negative or toxic, and something is said that's near and dear to your heart. But as I explained earlier, I woke up the other morning singing, "If I hold my peace and let the Lord fight my battle, victory, victory shall be mine. If I hold my peace and let the Lord fight my battle, I know that the victory shall be mine. Victory shall be mine." For some folks, holding your peace is it's like stalling or like putting your car in the park position. And I think that's really for me. Holding my peace sometimes is difficult and challenging. That's something I need to work on. Maybe that's why that song was on my mind. But for a long time, when I would think of holding my peace, I would think about being in a frozen state where you just sitting there or standing there, you just zip your lips and you just listen. Staying still and not responding when someone says something really off the cuff is just infuriating. When someone gets out of line or crosses the line with a real derogatory remark, I think they should understand that maybe they're hurting or they're harming or they're really making the other person or people feel a little irritated or not feeling good, or it might be something that would really, really make you feel uncomfortable. We, as we grow and become mature and become adults and seasoned and wise, we should learn how to own up to our words, because what we say means so much. As little kids, we would come home and tell our parents how someone may have said something about us, and our parents and grandparents would say, "Sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt." But you know what? Words do hurt sometimes. Words can really, really hurt. Look at all the children who are feeling hurt and intimidated and just really, really, it just almost like throwing a bucket of cold water on you when people bully you or talk about you or say something about people who you love and care about. How often do you come in contact with combative language that's said intentionally or unintentionally to just aggravate you, to just push your last button, to make you hotter than red hot sauce and cayenne pepper all mixed together? I know for me, it automatically makes me want to say, I need to give you a piece of my mind. And I don't have that much to give, but still, you want to put that person in their place, because sometimes people can just go too far. They can hit your last nerve. They can really hit that tipping point. They can make you say, now, wait a minute, you've gone a little bit too far. As I was thinking about this whole idea of peace, if I hold my peace, one of the Bible characters that came to mind was Paul. And I thought about Paul, and I thought about how strong he was and how outgoing he was, and the things that he said before he became Apostle Paul, when he was Saul, and how mean and how he would just really do just terrible things to Christians. And he was just really, really strong in his beliefs that they needed to be persecuted. But then when Apostle Paul was met on the Damascus Road by that bright light, which was God, his whole life changed and he became a different person. And he became bold and strong, and he was able to talk and to speak on behalf of Jesus Christ and on behalf of the true and living God. And he no longer persecuted the Christians because he was and had become a Christian. Another person who I thought about who really popped out when I thought about somebody who was strong and bold and would sometimes just jump out there and say what was on their mind was my other biblical favorite, and that is Peter, Simon Peter. And Simon Peter was the kind of person who was very talkative. He was brash. He was bold. He was zealous. He was an in-your-face kind of responsive type person. It seems like Simon Peter may have even been like, he had the characteristics of almost like a bouncer, because he was quick on the draw. When those people came after Jesus, Simon Peter was the one who jumped up, pulled out his sword to protect his loved one, to protect his leader, to protect Jesus. Simon Peter is always the one who jumps out there to try to do something or say something or let people know what time it is. Simon Peter, as you remember, was the one who on the really, really rough waters out there in the sea, when Jesus was walking on water, a supernatural feat, guess who jumps out the boat to join Jesus? And he actually walks on the water because he's looking and he's focused and he is in sync with Jesus. And he does good. But as soon as he takes his eye off Jesus, as soon as he starts thinking about other things, as soon as fear jumps in, the faith leaves and the fear pops in, he ends up being just like the ones who were stuck in the boat, who were scared to get out of the boat. He started sinking, and he needed Jesus to save him and to pull him out of the water. And I say all of that to explain, Simon Peter was a very aggressive, assertive type man. He was a strong disciple who would really, really stand forth and say what was on his mind. Recently, in one of our Sunday school lessons, we also heard about how Simon Peter was the very first disciple that Jesus chose while Peter was busy working as a fisherman. He was one of the first. He was the first disciple that Jesus chose while Peter was busy working on the water out in the sea as a fisherman. Also, Peter was the first apostle that Jesus Christ ordained. So he was the first disciple, and Peter was the first apostle ordained by Jesus Christ. So getting back to what I really want to connect to is how Peter, when he saw how those men were coming to arrest Jesus, pulled out his sword and cut off one of the servants' right ears. Here we have Jesus praying in the garden. The Jewish high priest Caiaphas sends his henchmen to snatch up Jesus, to capture him. And really, when you look at it on one vantage point, Jesus was like a political prisoner because he really hadn't done anything. But Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, in all four of the Gospels, they document how one of Caiaphas's henchmen, and his name was Malchus, and his comrades were coming to the Garden of Gethsemane to arrest Jesus. And when they came to arrest Jesus, and Peter saw what the deal was going on, Peter pulled out his sword and cut off Malchus's right ear. Just chopped it off. In Matthew, this is what we end up finding. And behold, one of them which were with Jesus stretched out his hand and drew his sword and struck a servant of the high priest and smote off his ear. Then said Jesus unto him, Put up again thy sword into thy place, for all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword. Here we go. Peter chops off the man's right ear, and Jesus tells Peter, put the sword back, because if you take out a sword, you will live by the sword. In Mark, we see a similar story where, look and see what happens. And one of them that stood by drew a sword and smote a servant of the high priest and cut off his ear. And Jesus answered and said unto them, Are ye come out as against a thief with swords and with staves to take me? The same story where Peter cuts off the servants of the high priest's right ear. And Jesus asked those who were standing around ready to arrest him, why y'all coming after me with swords and staves? You acting like I'm a thief or something. Because Jesus humbly knew that he was an honest man and he hadn't done anything to deserve this type of treatment. In John, we see the same similar story. And it goes, Then asked he them again, Whom seek ye? And they said, Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus answered, I have told you that I am he. If therefore ye seek me, let these go their way, that the saying might be fulfilled which he spake of them which thou gavest me, have I lost none? Then Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it and smote the high priest's servant and cut off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. Then said Jesus unto Peter, Put up thy sword into the sheath. The cup which my Father hath given me, shall I not drink of it? We see even more descriptions of what happened, because they say Simon Peter was the one that had the sword, and he cut the high priest's servant's right ear off.